My God, there are signs that we have reached the woke threshold and common sense could finally be cutting through. Earlier this year, Netflix dropped Pearl, Meghan Markle's preachy animated woke fest, which they claim was scrapped because of the expense of creating it. Likely story. I suspect it was more to do with the lack of appetite for virtue signalling celebrities telling us all how we can be better people. Yuck. Then there was Dave Chappelle's un-PC jokes. Staff at Netflix staged a walkout, but instead of bowing down, which is customary and what these lefties expect to happen as they are used to demonising anything they don't agree with, resulting in people being cancelled and fired, they were told instead, in no uncertain terms, that if they didn't like it, they could clear off and look for work elsewhere. In fact, currently some of their best performing shows are those that take the mickey out of virtue signalling. Round of applause to Netflix. I'll definitely be keeping my subscription. People want to watch macho stuff like Top Gun, Maverick, instead of virtue signalling movies like Lightyear, which featured a black lesbian and as the commanding officer, or the BBC's Doctor Who, which is like the United Colours of Benetton. Even after the death of George Floyd, there were some brave trailblazers who went against the grain. So while some changed their Twitter hashtag to a black square to show how non-racist they were, and diversity was shoved down our throats by political messages for the Black Lives Matter during that ITV performance with diversity, companies going out of their way to show their solidarity. Others were pushing back, like a crypto firm, which only a few months after the death of George Floyd told their employees that they would not promote political causes, and they were offered an exit package for anyone who didn't like their stance. They lost 5% of their workforce, but who wants these people anyway? The company are flying high now without the hindrance of the woke mafia. By the way, to counteract racism, it's quite simple. Just don't be racist. It's really that easy. No amount of virtue signalling or kneeling will achieve that. Choose to treat others as you'd like to be treated yourself. Even in politics, there is room for optimism with people like Sir Keir Starmer. Don't get excited. But he's actually been held to account for not being able to give a clear answer as to whether a woman has a penis or not. In the Tory leadership race, the likes of Grant Shapps were dispatched of immediately, partly for not prioritising how incensed the majority of us are over the gender gobbledygook, and partly because the Department of Transport is actually so badly run. Then there's Penny Mordaunt being asked to explain repeatedly what she meant by her comment that trans men are men and trans women are women. That alone is likely to scupper her chances. The no-nonsense approach of the likes of Kemi Badenoch, prepared to call this out, faring so much better. How did things get this bad? In my view, it's all about money. Corporations that rely on the public for their profits have to move with the majority, whereas those who rely on the state do not, so the latter can afford to go on the journey of woke, employing diversity stars like June Sarpong at the BBC for ludicrous sums, or the NHS with their plethora of net zero managers. Wherever there is major state involvement, like in schools and universities, this woke nonsense thrives. Toby Young, in a recent article, was right in his analysis, where he pointed out that where there is woke, there is the state. He said, the only solution is to reduce the size of the state radically and force them to earn a living in the real world. If you reduce the state, you reduce the woke.